Today's a bit of a new Dapp Alert, but at the same time, I want to talk about an ongoing problem really that's been taking place in one sector of the Tron Dapp space. Now, many of you know that back in the day, back when I started my channel really early on, I was heavily involved and excited about proof of weak hands, P3D. Now, back then, one of the things that got me excited about proof of weak One of the things that got me so excited about proof of weak hands was that it was unique and it was different, and I really saw long-term potential for that sort of a contract. And if you don't know what proof of weak hands was, let me just share that with you for a moment, and then I'm going to carry this into a new project that's coming out that I think is attempting to fix some of the problems that contracts similar to proof of weak hands had. Proof of weak hands was basically a smart contract on the Ethereum network. And basically you paid 10% in, 10% out, like a fee. And some people have called this an hourglass. I think that's a horrible, I'm the first one to say it, that is the stupidest name on the planet. I don't think it explains clearly to people what that is. Oh, it's not a pyramid, it's an hourglass. That's just, I think that is dumb. Proof of we can't start that stupid stuff. But they call it an hourglass contract. I think it's better described as a virtual deposit contract. Because at this point, really and truly, there's been one small use case for most of these contracts, but they all kind of run into the same problem, and that is a stall. So here's what happens. You buy into the contract. Let's say you buy in with, we'll just use dollars just because it can be any crypto. It could be $100 in Bitcoin. But let's just say that you bought in with $100 in Bitcoin. Well, then you would end up paying, and you're never using Bitcoin, by the way. You got to use some sort of programmable token like Ethereum, Tron, something like that. So but we'll just, for example's sake, you buy in with $100 in Bitcoin. Once you buy in, you basically get $90 of Bitcoin. And then when you hop out, you pay another 10% fee. But while you're in the contract, everyone else who buys into the contract or sells out of the contract pays that 10% fee in and out. And that fee goes to you as a token holder. Over time, this can do really, really well. We've seen a lot of these contracts, and they eventually all run into the same problem. Either there's a massive pump and dump in price of the token. So yeah, you make divs, but the price of the token drops so hard that you kind of get screwed even when you kind of sell out, if you will. But that's one problem. And this has been, a couple of contracts have tried to solve this by keeping a more stable price. In fact, there's one out there that the price doesn't move at all, which is a little bit interesting in its own right. But the number one issue is there's no use case for the token. So there's no real volatility in the token. The only reason people are buying in is because some sort of a gamble, a risk, or in some cases maybe it's a bit of a savings account. The problem as a crypto savings account is the price at some point can tank, and it can tank hard. And then what happens is you end up with these very long periods of you just stall out, and you either leave your crypto there or you pull it out and you try to do something else with your cryptocurrency. So that's what happens with almost all of these with all these contracts. And I think that really and truly, I think they're ahead of their time. I think there's going to be a use case for that type of contract. I haven't been talking about it lately. I've been criticized for not talking about it, especially by some of the owners of these other programs, because they know that I was so excited by that concept. I still am excited by the concept. I just think that right now it's just ahead of its time, and it's basically because the mechanism has not been fixed. The pump and dump mechanism, the use case for the token, etc. Now, with that being said, I was recently asked to look at a new one. And to be very honest with you, I probably wouldn't have looked, but in full disclosure, they offered me an ambassador position into this new project. Basically, chance to be able to get into the project early on. With the caveat, you can get in early, but your funds are basically going to be frozen, which is similar to those of you that are familiar with Tokenomics. It's similar to what they did. And before I said yes to that, I thought, well, I'll take a look at it. I'll consider it. Let me just look at what you got going on. And I'm going to be brutally honest. And I told them, I said, listen, I'll accept this ambassador position, but before I even consider it, I'll consider accepting it, but before I even consider it, I've got to tell you that you need to understand that I'm going to be honest with my opinions. And they agreed, that's fine. So therefore, hats off to them, because I could literally say anything right now. But let's talk about for a moment, what is the project? And I'm going to talk to you about some very interesting mechanisms that I don't think they fixed all the problems, but they are going a long ways. And I'm excited. I haven't been excited about really excited about a virtual deposit contract. That is a better name for it. Shout out to Blockchain for what is best. He's another small YouTuber out there, but that is another name. That is a much better name for it. He's the first one I ever heard use that name, was a virtual deposit contract, or VDC. Because other than an Hourglass, what the hell is an Hourglass? That is just dumb. And if it just offended you, sorry, get over it. Let's talk about this new contract. So the contract, by the way, is going to be Fish and Chips. And Fish and Chips is put out by, this is their main website. They're put out by Guppies. And I'm going to be honest with you, Guppies, if you go to their website, it's a little bit confusing. And in a nutshell, Guppies is basically, they have an IOST version and a Tron version. It's basically, the short version is like a mutual fund sort of in the dApp space. I'll just leave it at that. You can come check out the website if you want. But part of their ecosystem is they're adding this virtual deposit contract. And it looks incredible. Let me see if I can pull up some notes. I brought some notes on it. I'm going to kind of go over it in case you haven't seen this, you don't know anything about this. But then once I go over it, I'm going to kind of dissect what I like about it. And I'll tell you towards the end what, what I don't necessarily love about it. So Guppies is proud to announce the details for the world's first self-compounding. This is the part that is interesting. How they're pulling this off is a little stroke of genius. And let me just say this. This isn't a clone. The concept is clone. But in Telegram, they said that this thing was programmed from the ground up. And I'll let you know up front, it's on the IOST platform, which I probably would have never bought any IOST if it wasn't for this. But it's on the IOST platform, on the IOST blockchain. It looks very, very interesting. But the self-compounding thing is incredible. And of course, they use the term Hourglass. Everybody uses that term. I'm probably one of the 2 or 3 people that don't like the term. But so basically, the code has been audited as well, according to what they said in Telegram. And in fact, I'll tell you, the company that audited the code is, I'm not sure how to say this, is SOMISH. SOMISH. And literally, the code was done from scratch, from the ground up, is what they were saying in Telegram. I got to give the devs, that's something that I like. The devs are on it. Like, they're really paying attention. They understand marketing. I mean, they reached out to, a bunch of different people for marketing. I mean, I'm like, wow, they got a clue. I mean, not every dev is good at marketing or even understands marketing, but they seem like they're really on it. So let's come through. So basically, they have a fish token and a chips token. The fish token is essentially what you buy in as an ambassador. The starting price is going to be 0.75. Just so you know what ambassadors are doing, what they're getting. You had to be, most people got in as ambassadors based off, you had to be a top 10 fry holder, which is their native token on Guppies. I don't want to confuse you with that. But most of you will come in basically at launch, and I'll tell you when launch is going to take place. If you want to get in, you'll get in at launch. And I'll kind of tell you what my long-term plans are once I go through this. So you can come in as a fish, but then you basically have your tokens locked up. So here's the key. Fish tokens can never be sold. Ambassadors had a minimum buy-in and a maximum buy-in. I'll probably be coming in with, I got about 60,000 IOST right now, a little more. I'm moving some funds around. I may come in with closer to 70 or 80,000, just to get in basically. Because if I get in, I want to get in early. And I'll probably turn all those tokens into fish tokens initially. There's pros and cons to each token. We'll go through that. So the starting price of chips is 1 IOST. The fee is 11% in, 11% out. Increment increase, 0.1% increase per million IOST. That's 0.1 IOST. So it's going to increase pretty slowly, ideally, compared to some of the contracts out there. And it's trying to prevent massive pumps and dumps. So the price moves, but it doesn't move as dramatically as some of the other contracts have. They don't appear to be looking for, this is something I like. They don't appear to be looking for just a quick in and out. There's been several contracts come along where the developers created a contract, it pumped, it dumped, they were out, never to be heard from again. You know, proof of math and stupid proof of weak legs and stupid stuff like that. But there's been 2 or 3 where developers have stuck around trying to create something, and I like the fact they look like they're trying to create something here pretty solid. Chips, when you buy in, how the 11% is broken down, 6% goes to divs, meaning that 6% goes to spread out among everyone else who already owns chip tokens. 3% goes to referral, so there is a referral fee, and I'll have a referral link down in the description. You can't use it right now, but when it goes live, you can. But the referral fee basically is 3% of what you buy in. 1% goes to the Fry bankroll, 1% to the devs, and Fry again is the native tokens on the Guppies platform. When you sell, 8% goes to divs. So when people sell, that's kind of cool. A larger percentage goes to divs, 1% to the Fry bankroll, 1% to the devs. Look at this, 1% to the floor. 50% buyback and burn. I think 50% buy and distribute is what it's saying. That's interesting. There's a few things here that's really unique about this contract, and it's basically that they do a lot to add not just floor stability in the price, but they do a lot to add. I've never seen this before, where they add upward price movement, meaning upward positive pressure on the price, basically, where the bottom price over time should continue to increase. Check this out, node earnings. So here's the thing. This is what makes this so unique. They've already bought the node. They bought an IOST node. Another way of thinking about this, those of you that are familiar with Tron, they basically have they're essentially like a super representative on Tron for IOST. And I wouldn't be surprised if these guys plan to become a super representative on Tron later. But here's what they're doing with this token as a node holder. They're taking the IOST nodes pay out a lot, like 20, 30, 40%. And they're using those nodes, the node rewards, 80% of that is going back towards the virtual deposit contract. So that's incredible. Let's talk about how that works. So fish and chips voting rewards. So 50% buyback and burn. The Hourglass invests in itself by buying chips with voter rewards. Also raises the token price every single day. So then burns the chips if it holds 50% buyback and distribute chips to fish holders. So the voting rewards that come out, 50% of them are going to buy back and burn the chips tokens. So they're going to buy the tokens, which means it's going to create divs and then burn the tokens. And then it's going to also create, when they buy back, it's also going to raise the token price. Then they're going to burn chips, the ones they buy. 50% of the buyback will distribute the chips to the fish holders. So if you're a fish holder, you can never sell your tokens, but you're going to get a percentage of this buyback, and the 50% is buyback and distribute. So if I understand that properly, it's like 80% of the rewards that they're going to get from the earnings. 60% is for fish and chip voting rewards. There you go, not 80, 60. 20% go to iFry holders. Sorry, I totally missed that. It's right in front of me. 20% go to the devs, which is pretty standard on some of the nodes. A lot of the nodes, almost all the Tron nodes, 20% goes to the devs. Or the node holders. So here, 60% goes to fish and chips, 20% goes to the iFry holders. With this 60%, 50% is buyback and burn. So they're literally going to be using these IOST rewards they get from the IOST Foundation or whatever they call it. They're going to be getting those rewards and buying tokens daily with those rewards, which is going to be creating divs in and of itself. And they're going to be burning them, which is going to forever raise the price. Think about that. No other virtual deposit contract has ever had a way to constantly fund a consistent div mechanism, even if it was a small div mechanism. But now they have a way to be able to fund a consistent div mechanism. Now, how much is it? I don't know, but it's going to be constant and consistent. I mean, the div payouts for the node are high. It depends on how many fish holders there are. And the thing is, Yeah, we'll just keep going. I kind of get excited about this because I'm like, wow, they're solving what has been a fundamental problem this entire time. And that fundamental problem is ultimately total stagnation in the contract. Could the contract stagnate? Sure, it can stagnate. But even when it stagnates, it's still going to have constant forward momentum on the price as well as divs. So it's like, wow, that's really interesting. It can never fully 100% stall, which is fascinating to me. Every other token virtual deposit contract requires a bunch of hype getting created. Oh, we got a new program coming out, or we got a new twist, or we got some other partner who's going to feed into our program, or this partner over here is going to feed into our. They're constantly looking for another contract to feed another contract to feed another contract. Here, they have a way to constantly get rewards by holding the IOST node. I think that's just fascinating. And 50% of that 60% voter rewards, 50% of the 60% is going to buy back and burn the chips, basically. And then the other 50% is going to be distributed to fish holders. Now, anyone can become a fish holder, by the way. Let's keep going. 100% quarterly rewards, 100% to reserve fund for Guppy's bankroll. This reserve fund would buy into fish and chips, rain divs, but liquidate the fish and chips if necessary. Okay, that's awesome. Order goes, okay, this is the order. Okay, so 2 tokens. There's fish token and there's the chips token. Fish or permanently locked can never be sold. Ambassadors get fish tokens. Everyone has the option to convert the chips to fish. You can swap chips for fish, but not the other way around. So basically, chips can be turned into fish, but fish can never be turned into chips. Both earn divs. The difference is fish holders get dividends a little bit earlier. Fish holders get dividends from not just to buy and sell the token, but they also get these divs here. I say earlier. Earlier is the wrong word. They get another source of divs, and that is they get 50% of the voter rewards or buy back and burn. 50% are buy and distributed. They buy the chips and distribute them to fish holders. Fish holders can then keep those chips, or they can turn those chips into fish again. Chips prices will go up and down, so you can always buy and sell in and out of chips. So understand that the chip is basically the main token that people buy and sell up and down. But at any point in time, you can convert your chips into fish, which means that you'll still get the IOST rewards from people buying and selling. You're still going to get those rewards. But at the same time, if you choose, you can convert those chips to fish, or you can later sell. Once you convert them to fish, you still get the IOST rewards from the buying and the selling of the tokens, but you also get a little bit of the free chips or the distributed chips from the IOST buyback. And I don't know how much that's going to be, but what's fascinating is it's giving people a reason to potentially, like if they know they want to sit here long term and have a kind of a permanent dividend position, and they don't want to worry about the contract, so stalling, so to speak, they can buy in. And then they can convert those chips to fish. And once you do that, you're kind of like permanently in the contract, but you're also, in theory, going to be permanently earning some sort of divs in IOST because of these rewards, and you're going to be getting free chips as well because of the buyback and distribute. I mean, it's really fascinating, and what I see is basically a floor that continues to rise. The price can go up or down, but it can only go so low, and there will never be a point in which it can go beyond like, let's just say the price right now is 10. I'm just using random numbers. In a few days or weeks, the price is at 11, the floor price, meaning the lowest it can ever go. A few days a week, it's at 12. A few days a week, it's at 13. In theory, if you bought chip tokens, especially if you bought them early on and you held them indefinitely, I mean, in theory, at some point, the floor is going to meet your price. Now, if you buy them too high, it would take forever to get there. But if you buy them early on, I mean, at least the way that I think, not financial advice, but it seems about as safe as it can be. As long as the contract's never hacked or anything like that, it is a new contract. Let me tell you what I like, okay? First and foremost, there's all these incentives for the floor to rise. The first incentive is just becoming a fish holder. And the reason people want to be fish holders is because of these IOST tokens. The other thing that causes the floor to rise, so the more fish holders are, the higher the price floor is. The other thing that's interesting is the IOST rewards going to fish holders, so it causes people to want to be the IOST rewards that, not the node rewards that basically buy chips and distribute them to fish holders. So there's this incentive to keep being in, and there's all these reasons, right, to be able to be a fish holder. One is an ambassador. The other one, that's early on though. The other one is to get access to these rewards, and you're to be earning chips and divs because you're still earning divs as a fish holder. It's just really, I mean, they got something going here. I'm like, man, you guys need to get you a Tron node, do something similar, go ahead and get you a Dash node for good measure. But what makes IOST so unique is the rewards are much higher on that node than any other rewards. Do I think, we're all gonna get rich? I guess there's no way of saying that. I mean, there's definitely gonna be, I think this thing is gonna pump really, really hard. Long term, I think it might be a very interesting virtual deposit account. Virtual deposit contract. Virtual deposit contract. So I'm going to go in and I'm pretty hard with fish tokens initially. And then I'm just going to hold my chips for a while that I get and kind of see what happens. But I'm definitely going in pretty decently into the fish tokens outright. I mean, forget chips early on. And I tend to do that. I tend to go full on into stuff. I'm kind of I'm not a halfway kind of person. Let me just say what I don't like. So what I don't like is I still don't see a solid use case for the token. The best use case, it looks like it could be the best platform, potentially the best platform to store some crypto. Literally, a virtual deposit contract, a virtual crypto savings account. It looks like it could be the best token for that, or the best contract for that, potentially. What I like is that it's a brand new, it's brand new as far as in its programming. It's not been a straight clone, but there is some risk in that. Even though it's been audited, so they say, and I mean, I don't have any reason to say that I don't have any reason to think that it's not audited, but I don't personally have any way of knowing that, right? I didn't ask for proof of that. I take them at face value, but so it's been audited, but it doesn't mean that something could be missed. It doesn't mean that something could be wrong in the contract. That's always a risk in a smart contract, always. I'm going to go with it, that it's solid and it's been audited well, and I'm just going to go with it. And it's a risk you take in crypto. That's the bottom line. So it's a negative and a positive that it's a brand new program, if you will. I don't like the 11% and 11% out. I think it's too high to ever create a usable, functional token. I'm looking for 5% or less, 3% or less. And I'm looking for a token that has use cases where people want to use it outside of just make money. Make money can always be the side benefit, of course. But what can we use this token for? Meaning these chips tokens. What else can we use them for other than divs and price appreciation? No one's really mastered that yet anywhere in the space, and I don't think they've yet mastered that. It doesn't mean they haven't thought about it. I give these guys credit. They've done a tremendous, when you listen in their Telegram, it's really one of the more educated Telegrams, and I don't talk in there a lot, but I just kind of pay attention. It's really one of the more educated Telegrams to be a part of. I think you should join their Telegram just to be in there. Go to the website, guppies.io. Now, when is this all going to launch? When is it going to take place? It's going to launch, there's a countdown. It's going to launch soon. It's going to launch on December 1st, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek on what it looks like, by the way. Again, I'll have a link down in the description, a referral link down in the description. If you want to support my channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. You don't have to, though. But I'm going to give you a sneak peek. This is what the inside is going to look like. I guess it's okay that I show this. But this is my actual link. And this is kind of what the inside is going to look like. Pretty straightforward. I like that they show you chips burned, dividends earned, IOST divs earned, because you get dividends in chips and in IOST. That's pretty cool. Of course, the contract balance will be over here. Your fish, your chips, your earnings in IOST and chips. I like it. I like it a lot. It's pretty straightforward, not complicated. That's good. That's very good. If I didn't say it already, referral link, it just pays in 3% of whatever someone buys in for their when they buy in. It's 3%. It's not an enormously aggressive referral link, but it's a referral nonetheless. I appreciate the Fish and Chips team for even reaching out to me, because to be honest with you, I like what they're doing. And the first time I looked at it, I was just confused by the Guppies website. And I will tell you, their Guppies website, the main website, I mean, Fish and Chips is a part of Guppies, but it's still not very clear. They've got a lot of good things going on over there, but it's not very clear. Hey, thank you so much for watching my video. If you've got any questions, put them down in the comments. Let me know if you're going to be in on Fish and Chips. I'm just curious. I definitely know that I'm going in with, 60, 70,000 IOST, maybe 80,000 IOST. I'm definitely going to go in and buy fish tokens early on when it opens up, because I think that it may end up being a really good place to be able to long-term earn some passive crypto. And in a bear market, what else can you do? And what else am I going to do with my IOST tokens? I'm not big into IOST yet, but Fish and Chips, they've officially got me into IOST, and I got a feeling they're going to get a lot more people into IOST. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.